2 recruiting classes that are coming up as far as GPA, just working hard and doing things right, and going to be that's going to be this year's class, the 10 guys that are in, the 16. It's that 15. There's a group of players in there that haven't performed, that haven't. So we're very strong at the top. We're very strong at the bottom. And now we got to squeeze it and make sure everybody's productive and provides value. You do that, you have a very fine team. You don't, you won't. And so that's a very strong group. I mean, it's much more than just last year we did, because you had no idea. You only had 3 guys. And we went with Raekwon, Pat, and JT. This year there's many more than that. We have a good, solid group of older players.
I'm sorry about Coach Tucker, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry about Coach Tucker, by the way.
Yeah, terrible. What a great man. Known him since 1988, so I first met him here.
Front row, Dave.
You have a vacancy at right guard. I know it's very early, obviously, Urban, but who's maybe the favorite there at right guard at this early stage?
I won't say favorite, but Demetrius Knox is a guy that's going to be very involved in that. Matt Burrell, Malcolm Prejean, and then maybe Brandon Bowen. He's a guy that we'll look at. So that's a very competitive spot. A lot of competition for that spot.
And middle linebacker, is Chris Worley probably going to move there?
We moved him there, and Booker's back at the Sam, and Jerome Baker is at the Will. That's just day one, though. That could change. We're trying things out, and Worley's got the mentality. Now we just got to see if his body can hang in there at the Mike linebacker spot, because he's got it all. Just got to make sure he can hang in there.
Second row left, Bill Landis.
Urban, just with what you said about the needed improvements in the passing game and adding Kevin Wilson to the fold, what do you need to see out of JT this spring in terms of his improvement in the passing game?
Well, throwing the footballs, running the football is complicated, but throwing the football is even more complicated. And it's all tied to the first place. You always start with pass protection, and obviously that was not a strength of ours last year. And then I just want to see more accuracy. We went back and watched our best games that we've had here. The offense coordinator, myself, Ryan Day, I wanted everybody to watch. This is our vision. This is our dream. A very balanced. We're not changing who we are. We have to get back to being that productive 250, great tempo in between plays, aggressive play calling, and probably the Wisconsin, that run, the Wisconsin, Alabama, Oregon were perfect examples. Michigan State in 2014. And there's plenty of other games, but I made them watch, and I sat down and ran a clicker and said, this is what I want it to look like. And the one common denominator in all those games where we hit the deep ball. And it's who we are. We're going to pound the football at you, and we're going to go with the top. When that works, life's pretty good offensively. When it doesn't, when you misfire or we get sacked or we have a problem, that's obviously when it doesn't. So the emphasis is going to be on hitting the deep ball.
And then when there was some stuff about Kerry Combs possibly joining Luke in Cincinnati, there was I think it would have been a tweet from your account that said Kerry would have an expanded role coordinating the defense. And then there was a release before spring that said the sole defensive coordinator is Greg Schiano. Just wondering if you can expound maybe on what Kerry's role is.
I didn't release that he was the sole defense coordinator. I don't know where that came from. That was not an Urban Meyer release. He's the defense coordinator. I'm going to evaluate what's the best for our program and kind of watch Coach Davis, watch Coach Combs, and obviously Larry is a very integral part. So Kerry will have a much expanded role just because of the nature of Greg's going to be, he's the defense coordinator, and now Luke Fickell's gone, so he's going to give a little more attention to the front seven. Greg will, that means Kerry will have a lot more responsibility in the back end of our defense.
That was me who said that, Coach, because Luke was gone, I said he was the coordinator, so
yeah.
That was my fault. All right, second row left.
Urban, Kyle Trout announced that he was going to be transferring, but he's still practicing with you during the spring.
Actually sick today.
That's kind of atypical. What was behind the decision?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Kyle's a wonderful guy, and he's going to have an opportunity, I believe, to graduate, and that graduate transfer, which I think is a great rule. Maybe have an opportunity to go play, and so he's going to go through spring ball, and what the future holds, that's between him and Luke Fickell and our line coach, and he came to me and said that I want maybe a better opportunity to go play. We're not going to stand in that with a good young man, so we're going to let him practice because they didn't have room right away, because he can't transfer until he graduates. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
The other thing I wanted to ask, you guys recruit a lot of players that come in. You recruit them as athletes, kind of, where you'll just come in and you'll decide what your need is when you get here, whether, and Brendan White's an example of that, whether it's linebacker or safety or wide receiver, he's starting a wide receiver. What's your take, or how do you guys approach the experimental starts for these guys' careers? How much time do you want to put into a certain position before you make a switch? And, when they're here early as an early enrollee, do you kind of just feel like it's okay to experiment? Or what's your theory on just how you guys make sure they get the right route?
There's been some great stories. Darren Lee's one that you kind of brought in here. We weren't sure what he was going to be, but a great athlete. Brendan White. There's another one I just thought of. I'm sorry? Sam Hubbard's another one. Yeah, there's one other just on the top to my tongue. Well, you bring them in, and you kind of see where they fit and where they need it. Right now, we have a little bit of a need at wide receiver. We're pretty deep at linebacker. So Brendan White, he was a good athlete, quarterback in high school. Let's take a look at him there. Let's see if he develops. Yet he's also learning how to tackle and play on defense, because probably his first impact will be on kicking game. And then we'll start to evolve him into one way or the other. We'll make that decision. I love recruiting guys like that. That's one of I really enjoy recruiting a great athlete, a guy that was usually the quarterback. Great high school coaches have a tendency to put their best player at quarterback. Joe Hayden is a perfect example for it. We took him because he was a great athlete, and then we found out where he fit once he got there.
But need usually is the priority.
Needs a priority, yes.
Second row middle, Ryan?
JT is obviously one of the more accomplished quarterbacks in program history, but, heading into his senior season with two new coaches, what do you think he still needs to work on and grow at, and how do you think Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson can help him get there?
JT kind of took the world by storm as a redshirt freshman, broke Drew Brees' record for total touchdowns, I believe, as a freshman he did it. Then he had that tough injury, and his sophomore year was, sharing time and wasn't quite full speed early in the year, and ended up taking over the spot and had a very productive end of his career. Last year we had some great games and maybe some not great games. So I just think, if you had to say one thing, I can't really give you one thing. I think it's more the offense. That's one thing interesting. Alex Smith was my quarterback at Utah, and I remember he got drafted by the 49ers, and the 49ers weren't very good back then. And I started getting all this feedback, well, Alex Smith is a bad quarterback. And he's a bad quarterback because he was on a very bad team. And what happens is quarterbacks get a lot of the times far too much credit when everybody's playing well around them, and then they get a lot of the blame. So when we're playing well, like Nebraska, JT, obviously played great. When the offensive line or maybe the receivers and other guys wasn't playing well, maybe he wasn't, he gets a little bit of the criticism. Comes with the job description. So there's a lot of things he has to work on. Most importantly, let's just get better on offense.
Second row, or third row middle, Bill Bender?
Coach, you mentioned the tempo, and with Kevin Wilson, their offenses, I looked at, you guys had similar plays per game as Indiana. So is the focus for you guys to pick up the tempo, to play a little bit faster this year?
Yeah, getting a rhythm. I think he's got a lot of experience calling plays. So when you say tempo, it's not necessarily just a quantity of plays. It's just the rhythm that's where Tom Herman brought so much to our offense. When we were in Florida, we weren't a big tempo team, so I wanted to have someone with that experience. I personally do not. And you got to be in it's just calling plays, practicing faster, calling plays, and getting it to the line of scrimmage much faster, and that's one of his strengths. So we don't look at number of plays. It's just trying to cause defensive problems.
Front row, middle, Bill? Rabinowitz?
Do you sense with JT that there is some, as great a career as he's had, there's really unfinished business? Do you sense a greater determination with him?
Sure. How do you measure the success of a quarterback? Some people do passing yardage. You'll never hear me talk about that. It's wins and losses. So he's a very decorated quarterback. So ones that I don't even know his winning percentage must be off the chain. However, he's never lifted the trophy yet. And I'm talking about the Big Ten championship or the next one after that. And so that's how, in my opinion, that's how quarterbacks should be measured. Are you a champion? And have you led your team to a championship? It's the most unique position, in my opinion, in all of sport. And how do you measure him? Obviously, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. Why? He's won more championships than any other quarterback. That's how JT is going to be ultimately measured.
Alex Stump is not on the roster anymore. What happened?
Yeah, he's going to transfer.
Far left front, Doug?
Urban, obviously, you've said many times that the Ohio State offense is going to be the Ohio State offense, regardless of who the coordinator is. But with Kevin Wilson, will there be, how will any of the route concepts or the kind of routes you emphasize or anything like that in the passing game, are there things that he likes to run? How will that change and mesh with what you guys do?
Oh, I think the key word is mesh. If it fits into conceptually what we're trying to get done, then we add it. And the term we use around here is we're not changing, we're enhancing what we do. If it was broken, we'd have to change it. If we wake up one day 5th or 6th in the Big Ten in offense or something, that now you're going to see one of these deals. On pass defense back about 4 years ago, we had to implode it. We finished 110th and whatever, when we were very poor on defense. But this year it's just, there's things that we have to work on, and he's the perfect guy, him and Ryan Day and our offensive staff, to get them fixed.
And Bill asked about Alex Stump, but Tyler Gerald or James Clark, any of...
James Clark's going to graduate and transfer. He's still running track here, all in good standing. Who's the other one?
Tyler Gerald.
Yeah, he just quit. I don't know. I really wasn't part of that one.
And you guys just, when you sign, have more than 85 after signing day, do you have these things, did you know some of these things were coming with some of the guys?
Yeah, some. However, there's a little bit normal attrition that takes place, and that's it's a little bit slippery slope. A lot of times you don't know who's leaving early. This time, the calendar right now is a bizarre thing. Guys are committing, and all of a sudden who's left, who's early, and all of a sudden who's declaring, and you're waiting until after the bowl game. So you get kind of caught, but usually, not usually, it works out at the end.
We're right. Austin?
Along some similar lines to what Doug asked about Kevin Wilson's influence, does that mean that there are a bunch of new pages in the playbook, different schematics?
What's the definition of bunch?
I don't know. I mean, how much would it have changed compared to every other, maybe a normal offseason, same staff? I know there's going to be...
Yeah, I think when Tom Herman came in, a fresh set of ideas, and then we all as a staff decide how does it mix with the base Ohio State offense. So the answer to your question is, I'm not sure your definition of bunch is 4, 8, 12. I wouldn't say a bunch, but there's some enhancement going on right now.
What's that process like for when you get a couple new coaches in, you guys sit down and this is the Ohio State offense, and what's our next step? I mean, how does that work? Is it a couple days?
It's one of the great, there's some fun things you get to do and some non-fun things you get to do. That's in the coach's world. Like, you guys have fun things to do. That's fun for us. The coaches get in there and you watch videotape of other programs, of their programs, and say, how does that fit our offense? And I'm very involved in that, and listen and learn, and that's where, from Greg Brandon to Mike Sanford to Dan Mullen to Steve Adazio to Tom Herman, who's the next one, Ed Warner, they all have their personalities, and they've all had major impacts in this offense, and I can see it happening right now.
Tim?
With that said, we got to watch a practice today, which we appreciated, especially the pass.
Is that a thank you?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
There seemed to be some zip, just even in the route running and things like that. I seem to see some Kevin Wilson influence and maybe a few things. But what was your take on just your wide receivers, watching them kind of get after it a little bit? I mean, you got Everett Glover Williams over there now.
I think I think you're like, you haven't seen football in a while.
Yeah.
I saw the same thing. I guess use the word zip. It's because they haven't practiced in a while and they've been getting their brains kicked in the weight room. So they're really excited to be out there running around. I hope we have that same zip practice 12 or middle of August.
But we all remember the clown show comment. Remember after y'all's first practice here way back when. That wasn't, no, I'm not trying to dredge that up, but from a wide receiver standpoint, the production wasn't there, I don't think like you wanted last year.
It wasn't there last year, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see potential there today?
I thought outstanding. Yeah, absolutely. There's good, talented guys. We have 2 more guys coming in, Jalen Harris and Trayvon Grimes, and then Elijah, the young guy out of Texas. So there's a lot. It's a very fluid. Right now, we're very fluid. That means we're getting 3-year windows from some guys, and young guys got to step up and go. So to answer your question, we have not had the production for a good first day. I put it as a great first day, but a lot of great first days out there.
Is Glover Williams, in your mind, is that a permanent move now? I mean, do you see a playmaker?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And one last thing, I don't know, as you look at it, Ryan Day, what do you think he brings to the table?
Well, he has knowledge of our system. He was with us at University of Florida. He's gone on with Steve Adazio, but the offense coordinator, and although it's a little different, but he's used to us. He's used to our style. He's a tough guy. He's got a great Chip Kelly. He played quarterback for Chip Kelly. He knows their offense, which we have a lot of similar concepts. And he's a pro coach. You know, he knows how to develop quarterbacks, and my feedback I'm getting from that quarterback room right now has been very positive.
Coach, one last thing. I'm watching those 4 quarterbacks, and they're all 4-star, or maybe not JT coming out because he got hurt, whatever. Have you ever had 4 quarterbacks lined up like that with that kind of potential in your career of guys that were fairly highly recruited? And is this
Tebow,
kind
Cam
of a rare
Newton,
time?
Johnny Brantley, and Jeff Driscoll, I think. That was all 5s, I think.
Is that 5?
I mean, all 5-star guys,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, I'm talking about 4 guys. If you had that kind of potential at quarterback, and
I don't know.
do you like it? I guess when you look at this.
No, I wish I had a bunch of bad quarterbacks. No, I wish we had
You know
more.
where I'm going, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, we do. We had a lengthy discussion. How do you, and this is the most important thing, how do you split up reps between a guy like Tate Martell, who Tate Martell thinks he's playing? No one tell him he's not going to play. Joe Burrow is one of the toughest cats, most competitive guys, and Dwayne Haskins is, we still haven't seen his ceiling yet. So, yes, it's a perfect situation, but you have to think through and manage reps, because you're also dealing with personalities, too, that are very talented guys.
We got time for 2 more questions real quick. Ben?
Urban, you said something on signing day about wanting to refresh the program, just freshen things up.
Yeah.
Did things feel fresh out there today?
Yeah, we changed a lot of little things. We changed all the coaches' offices, where they're at. We changed just little things about who goes for, the offense is down here now, defense is just, I think you just have to, year 6, kind of, change the paint on the building a little bit, and it's been all positive so far.
And far right, Tony?
Given the positive nature of the 3-man rotation at quarterback last year, does that become a need moving forward, or is it still a want?
Well, cornerback.
The corners.
Yeah, I think the way we play defense, we'd like to do that. Obviously, you have Damon Arnett and Denzel Ward, only guys that ever played for us right now. And you got Rajay Burns. We moved Wayne Davis to safety. And then you got these 4 corners that just stepped out there today that look pretty good. So we'd like to play we'd like to play more than 3 or 4. But our goal, we learned a lesson. That was as good a production we've ever had out of corner play that anywhere we've been. Obviously, it's had great players, but what we ask those guys to do, it's a track meet for 4 hours. And if you can a little rotation in there, you're going to be much better. So the answer is yes.
Clay, go ahead.
Wilson was a head coach. Now he's not. How's he fit in? How's
great.
he assimilated?
I was worried about that. My first one I think I hired was Dan McCarney at Florida. Was a very successful head coach, and came in, and there's no duty that was, he just did everything. Joker Phillips came here last year, was a SEC head coach, and came in and did a lot of, scout work for us, those type of things. And then you have Greg Schiano. Now I have Kevin Wilson, and, it's to be determined, but initial reaction is over the top. I mean, he's jumped right in. He's one of the soldiers, and we're going to work.
Coach,
Thanks, guys.